This is the Melbourne Public Library, established in 1854. Hey guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic, and today I thought we'd have a bit of a look. This is Trove. Look at some of the old buildings in Melbourne. And if you're watching my series with Paula on the history of Melbourne and Australia, you would have seen we had a look at one or two of these photos and left the link, but there's some good photos and some interesting stories. So I thought we'd have a bit of a squiz. First of all, with this main picture we've got here, this is, they say, taken in 1897. 1897, so this is, 50 years or so after it was built. And still we have dirt roads. We have this statue. Now, I'm guessing this is going to be of the guy who found the museum or the library, or he created it as a museum and library. But look at the top of this light. It's interesting. All right, see that? See that in a lot of buildings, don't we? And very tall lights. And look at the gates and the fence. They're just massive old world wrought iron. The stuff we don't produce anymore. And another thing about this statue is this, it could be the light, but it looks like it's a different color sandstone to the building, maybe just newer. So what is the story of the Melbourne Library? It was established 168 years ago in 1854, barely 20 years after the city was settled. Okay, and notice they do say established, not built, not constructed, established. It opened as the Melbourne Public Library and is not only Australia's oldest public library, but also one of the first free public libraries in the world. It was created as the People's University. And if we jump over to Wikipedia, we'll see that it's actually Australia's busiest public library, and as of 2023, the third busiest library in the world. Interesting. But down here we get the history. Okay, 1853, the decision to build a combined library, museum, and gallery was made. And Sir Redmond Barry, this guy. Um, okay, yeah, guess what happened, guys? A competition was held, of course, won by the recently arrived architect Joseph Reed. Okay, and he was an English-born architect in Melbourne, Australia in the Victorian era. Considered the city's greatest, his public profile works include many of the city's most loved buildings. So basically, he built a lot of stuff, is what they're saying. So this guy, Redmond Barry, he was the guy who basically put forth the idea, so they say, right? At least to use this building as a library and museum. So this is Redmond. So this is Sir Redmond Barry, an Irish-born judge in the Australian colony, a major figure of civic life, the third son of Major General Henry Green. Okay, so this guy, look at the picture, right? But clearly he's from, military, so he's from bloodline, right? He came over here, started, and then went back to Ireland in 1829, where he studied and graduated, etc., etc. So, looking like a controller bloodline, right? But Joseph Reed, now you may have heard of Joseph before, he basically designed half of Melbourne after he won a competition to design the museum, apparently. But what did he really design? We know it was already there, right? But it says here he was an English-born architect in Melbourne, Australia in the Victorian era, considered the city's greatest. His prolific works include many of the city's most loved buildings and significant heritage listings. Among his most famous designs is the World Heritage listed Royal Exhibition Building. Okay, we've all seen this in Melbourne, completed for the 1880 International Exposition. And a bit about him, born 1823 in Cornwall, England. His early career may have included some local training, and he is known to have worked in the offices of some noted architects in London. Okay, so here we go. This guy was, they just said, considered the greatest architect of early Melbourne. Okay, what was his training? He may have included some local training, and he is known to have worked in the office of some noted architects. So no formal training at all. He was just working in the office. Well, that's what they say at least. He decided to start a new career at the age of 30 in Australia, arriving in Melbourne in 1853. He very soon made a name for himself because the next year he won the design competition for the State Library of Victoria, the Geelong City Hall in 1855, and designed the Bank of New South Wales in Collins Street in 1856. So two buildings, like year apart. We've got the Geelong City Hall, as you can see here. Yes, he designed and built this, apparently. And this is the Bank of New South Wales, okay, which is this middle building here. I mean, and look at this street, right? Complete old world, wall-to-wall buildings and not flat. So this is what he went on to build, like these two buildings in 2 years. I mean, most architects couldn't design a building like this today in 1 year. Well, maybe today with AI, but definitely not 10 years ago, right? So it says the library's first stage, the central part of the Swanston Street wing, opened on the 11th of February, 1856. Okay, so Joseph Reed won the competition. And as you can see here, it was established in 1854. Okay, 1854, completed in early February 1856. So maybe 2 years, right? But finished in February. So I mean, if they started in February, 2 years, but if they started later, then less than 2 years to build this, okay, in the 1850s. And again, Melbourne was only 19 years old when they did this. So basically, they built it in less than 2 years. There was just some architect, Joseph Reed, who may have had some training, but definitely worked in an architect's office and went on to become the greatest architect of Melbourne, right? I mean, this is a likely story, right? Because this building is massive. I've been in it. It's a huge building and it has a massive dome on the back of it, which is basically a library, right? This big domed building with balconies around the edge with all these books in it. So it's not actually very usable space for a library. All right, let's see if we can get some pictures. So here is one picture. This is inside. You can see how grand this place is. Okay, vaulted ceilings here with windows. We've got massive columns everywhere. Complete old world, right? Look at that. And these are the libraries here at the side. Well, the books, should I say. This is just to show you the scale of this library. Joseph Reed's master plan for the library, museum, and gallery, illustrated in 1860. Look at the size of this. And completely old world, right? What they tell us is Greco-Romano, the classic Tartarian look, massive dome, and you can see the height of this dome. It really is huge. And massive building, and everyone just horse and cart, dirt roads. Another drawing of the interior, just showing off all the art. And there you go. That's an actual photo of the size of this dome. And it really is, it's huge. But like I said, it's empty. It's really just, it's a hexagon, I believe. And it's just got balconies around the edge. Like most of the space is not used. Very impractical. I mean, look at this. What's this? 1909. I mean, check out everything in the background of this picture, right? Old world stuff everywhere. How do I move this there? Right, you can see all these columns out here, cathedral, castle looking things, right? Just everywhere. Here's another big tower, another one, and this huge building. And of course, stairs up, windows down, right? It's a mud flooder. And this is inside the dome. And as you can see, it's just empty space. They can use the bottom floor, but look, the rest of it is just these balconies with bookshelves on them, right? Like it's completely wasted space everywhere apart from the ground floor. And it's a huge, huge dome, very intricately made. And this was all done 20 years after Melbourne was built, less than. And they do have some giant books in here, very oversized, and they have some with maps and star forts and stuff in them. Pretty interesting. You can't actually flick through them, they just have them open. But, if you're in Melbourne, go check it out. There are some interesting books on display. And out the front, we have this sculpture, which looks a lot like a building that's been sunk into the ground. Or is this them laughing at us, telling us that it's a mud flooded building? What do you think? And of course, old Ned Kelly's armor is on display there as well. Only one boot, but yes, his armor. So, I mean, that's an interesting story that I really need to do a deep dive on because, we're all taught this story. It's very famous in Australia, but it's like everything, right? How true was it? We just don't know. So that was Melbourne Public Library, built in less than 2 years in 1854, which is less than 20 years after Melbourne was founded, by a guy who won a competition. He was not an architect, but he may have had training. I mean, this is the story, and we've all heard this story before, right? It just keeps repeating itself, which is, why we have to consider the fact that all this history may have been written by AI, because this is what AI does. It just repeats and repeats. It doesn't create. So here we have the General Post Office in Melbourne, and this photo again is around 1897. And I mean, again, look at this thing. What is this tower for? Apart from, docking airships, but what use could they possibly say that was for? Were they like what, turning the mail into paper aeroplanes and going up there and throwing it at its destination? I mean, it's got no reason to be there. Okay, so back in the 1800s, late 1800s, everyone again, dark clothes, apart from this trendy guy, hats, all very similar looking, dirt roads, this crazy lamp, like electric pole that we see, a lot of these pictures, and then these massive old Tartarian buildings, right, including this, the Beehive Clothing Company again, all the usual suspects, right? These urn looking things that we see everywhere, up under the eaves here. They always use these support block things, arched windows, the whole thing. Now this, I would say, is added. Well, it says Beehive Clothing Company. Now, because the Tartarian buildings never seem to have verandas coming off them, right? So this is all added, this veranda thing. Here we have a handsome dude checking out the camera. And of course, trams. There are still trams in Melbourne, but they actually were in every city around the world at some point. All right, let's have a look into this. The post office in Melbourne. Okay, here it is. The significance of the General Post Office is historically significant as one of the foremost public buildings in Victoria, both architecturally and as a centre of postal communications for the colony of Victoria. The history says a post office was first established in Melbourne on the 13th of April 1837, but it would not be until 1841 that a permanent post office would be erected on the site of the present GPO. On the site of the present GPO. Oh my God. Yep, guys, you guessed it. It was a design competition. Of course it was. In 1858, a design competition was held for a new general post office building, with the winners announced on Friday, the 7th of May, 1858. The competition was in two parts. Crouch and Wilson won the first prize for their exterior design, and Arthur Ebden Johnson won second place for the exterior, and also won second place for the interior. Why would you have a second place? I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Initial construction, 1860 to 1867. So they've given this one 7 years, or have they? The 1861 design consisted of two stories, taking it up to the full site. Okay, so we've just lost a year, so 6 years now. The main floor fronted. Construction of this design ceased in 1867 without the northern half of the Elizabeth Street wing, the central mansarded portion of the mansard roof to the tower. So they're saying it was never quite completed, but a few additions, 1887, just 1887. All right, so 6 years, 6 years to build the post office, to build this. Here we have the construction. It's definitely not a photo, it's an image, but it looks like they're trying to say this is construction. Up here, this is how the, even in this drawing, it's actually, you can see archways, it's already basically completed, and they've just got bits of wood, right? But this is all stone. I don't know. That's a bit of a crazy picture. And here we have Melbourne General Post Office, 1868. So the year after its completion is what they're saying. And I mean, you can, okay, so this is the tower. Okay. So the tower must have been finished in 1867 is what they were saying. Well, that's an interesting picture, right? Okay, so all these arches, stairs, two-story, well, two-story, right? Look how big the people are. And then this tower. Now, I'm just trying to look at the edges here because, of course, vanilla sky, right? Vanilla sky, vanilla sky. And this is the picture they show us later. So what have we got here? One, two, three stories. Three stories. Interesting. And one door, two doors, and then so they're saying this has been added. Okay. And clearly just two stories. Okay, so all right, the windows in there, yeah, they basically mirror that. So they're trying to say that they then came on and built another level and then extended the tower from there. Okay, but when we look at this picture, okay, so this is the corner bit. This goes in with one window and then two, and then the clock. Okay, so this has got portals, right, under these porticos. This doesn't, right? This has got double windows, right, and no portico, like the triangle on top, right? See here, triangle on top, just like all the entranceways, and then clearly a round portal, well, porthole window. Um, and I guess that's where that's what they normally fill up with clocks. But I'm now starting to see a lot of these photos where these were all empty. So was that to do with something to do with, wind and frequency? And I'm not sure, but these look like two different buildings to me. What do you think? Leave me your comments because this is clearly it's three-story, right? And so they're saying that this was a bit of the tower, and then it went up here, right, to here, and then I guess they've added this on the top. So and they're saying they've added this extra story, but again, here, look at this roof. Come back, and the roof is there when it was two-story. So, I mean, let me know. What do you think? Are these two different buildings? Okay, what's next to it? We've got this down here, this colonnaded building. And that again, this is two-story, this building next to it, by the way, and look how much shorter it is. So if we come up here, we can't quite see. Down this end, can't really see what's beside it. Oh, that's interesting. Little domed roof there. So I mean, what do you think? These look like two different buildings to me. Then they've just made up this story. This may have been a building they got rid of. I don't know, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. This was apparently the original post office, 1841, the year after Melbourne was established. Here we have the old post office again, 1853, so just before this was built. Oh, okay. So that was the building. Okay. See this little bit here, right? That was in the photo. This photo. So see down here, see that? That's what they're calling the old, whoops, post office down here. See this little dome here, this bit? That is what they are saying is this. So you can see it again there and here. So that building's still standing, and so they built it next to it, is what they're saying. There it is, another picture as a two-story, as completed in 1867 without north wing or central mansard roof. And that's it today. Symmetry, ceilings, it's the same as every other old world building. Okay, so General Post Office, that was built in 6 years, they say. Da, 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 da. Design by design competition, of course. And then they say they built it and just kept adding on to it. Right, so we're getting some interesting little stories here. So this is the old Treasury building, again in Melbourne, and again from 1897, or so they say. And again, like complete, you know, all the usual features. No road going to it. You've got this dude and his horse and carriage. And this thing is not flat. You can see this is on the ground, and as it goes down, they've had to build all these steps getting bigger on the way out. Looks like we've got some windows here, right, basically at the pavement level. And I'm not sure what's happening with this. Yeah, it looks like a bit of a dip and old post, I don't know, old lights, of course. But here we go. Let's check out the story of the old Treasury building. So the old Treasury building. What's this? Knowledge is human. Oh my God. I'm not going to give you money, Wikipedia. You're full of lies. The old Treasury building on Spring Street, Melbourne, was built 1858 to 62, so 4 years. Okay, we'd have a hard time doing that today. In the grand Renaissance revival style. Oh, they're always revival styles, aren't they? Designed to accommodate the Treasury Department. Okay, 1858. That's a big building for Treasury, right? So what was the population of Melbourne in 18, it was 58, wasn't it? In the 1880s, Melbourne population reached 280,000. Wow, that was fast. Because Melbourne was founded in 1835. So basically 55 years later, they had 280,000 people. But this says dating, so what year is that? I've asked for 1858. Here it goes, approximately 118,000 people. So this building, again, you can see the steps, right? And how that's not level, right? That's not been built on a level foundation. Here's an old picture. Architectural drawing, no doubt. Another one. This is 1870, and this is today. So the Treasury Building was constructed 4 years and is considered one of Australia's finest Renaissance revival buildings. The building was designed by young architect J.J. Clark. Okay, JJ's entering the scene, who was just 19 years of age in 1857. Construction of the basement and the ground floor began in 1858 when he took 7 months leave to tour Europe and the United Kingdom. Okay, so he's 19 years old. He designs this massive building for the government, then goes on holiday to Europe, and on his return, he completed the design, possibly changing that of the second floor and removing the fourth level attic. The fourth level attic. Okay, so I find that very interesting. The fourth level attic. Okay, this is Collins Street, Melbourne, around 1897 again. I just thought we'd have a bit of a look at it because, again, it shows an old world city. Okay, we've got trams here, got horse and cart. You know, they're not really paved roads. Is it dirt? Don't know. Bit hard to see, but it's the buildings, right? Like they're all the same. That one looks a bit Moorish, actually. And we've got two domes here, and then like look at the cathedral here, like more spires here and here, domes down here. Just a fully built out old world city. And again, this picture was 1897. So we're talking, 50, what, 3 years? 53 years after Melbourne became a city. This was just one street. This is what they'd done. Apparently, here's another shot around the same time, another street, right? But the whole city was built out, wall-to-wall buildings and all what we would call Tartarian, right? Old world buildings, massively wide streets, already got trams systems all in. They got electric light systems. You can see one here, right? And massively oversized buildings, which doesn't make any sense for a country that's just starting out. Here's another one. I mean, and look at these amazing buildings. I mean, most of them are probably unfortunately gone now, but look at this. This is what you see in Europe, in the old cities of Europe, right? There's no explanation of how it got here that makes any sense. This is Queen Street, Melbourne. I mean, and look at this massive, you know, Greco-Roman temple. And then look at this building, right? Look at just the symmetry. Right, we've got square windows, arch windows, but the square one going up the middle, right? Three on each side, and then in squares at the top, and just all artistic work on the front, on the facade. Geez, they actually look like people, don't they? But again, like just a whole built out street, completely built out in just over 50 years. Spring Street, same story, completely built out. Stairs going down here. We've got the old lights. We've got dirt roads, dirt streets. That looks like they've planted a lot of trees recently. And look at this behemoth. Look at the size of this building. Crazy big. Of course, we've got the twin domes on top there. And down here, more huge domes. All right, all in just over 50 years. They built the whole city out. Or so they say. And this is Government House. All right, so all these pictures are pre-1900. This is Melbourne in the 1800s. I mean, what's the point in their narrative of this tower here? Put a flagpole on? Or maybe is it docking? for airships. But very interesting. Basically, it looks like a castle. I look at the front of it, and this one's still standing. But again, all of these, the whole city built in just over 50 years. This is the Melbourne Town Hall, again around 1897. Now look at that thing. Like twin domes, big tower, like massive. Look at the front here, this foyer. That is ridiculously big compared to these tiny, tiny little people. Right? Okay, Wikipedia, what can you tell us about the Melbourne Town Hall? Often referred to as simply the Town Hall. Well, it's not very helpful. Is the administrative seat of the local mun municipality of the City of Melbourne and the primary offices of the Lord Mayor. So Melbourne was officially incorporated as a town on the 13th of December 1842, when Henry Condell as its first mayor. However, it was not until 1854 that its first town hall was completed. Begun in 1851, the work ground to a halt with the beginning of the Victorian Gold Rush. The foundation stone of a new, grander town hall was laid on the 29th of November, 1867. Okay, the current town hall officially opened 11th of August, 1870. So we're talking 3 years, just under 3 years to build it. Okay, so I'm just having a bit of a look down here. Oh, here we go. Architecture is going to tell us the architect. Town hall was designed by the famous local architect Joseph Reed. Here we go. He's popped up again. Okay, so he's, um, again, no training, right? For this guy. Just turned up, won a competition, and he's designing all these buildings. So Melbourne Town Hall, 1910. Again, complete Tartarian city here. This is the size of it. Absolutely huge. Of course, there's a massive old world cathedral next to it. So this is inside the town hall, the grand organ. Melbourne Town Hall, 1872. So not is it just this amazing big building, Tartarian, old world, with domes and everything, built in 4 years. It also has this pipe organ in it. For what reason? I mean, we know what pipe organs are for, right? They're for healing organs, right? This is a healing thing, but how does it fit their narrative? Now I'm interested. What are they going to say is a story about the organ? What is that's a different one. Melbourne Town Hall organ. Maybe it's not. No, it is. That's definitely a different organ. The grand organ, and so we've got a grand organ and just a town hall organ. And there you go. That's where you play it from. Crazy. So, what's going to tell us about the organ? Okay. The history of the organ. The organ was originally built in 1872. Oh my gosh, before a fire destroyed it in 1925. Okay, so a fire destroyed the organ, but not the town hall. But in every other story we get, when there's a fire, it destroys the buildings. But it's always fire. It's always the same story. Always. A new organ was constructed. That must have been the smaller wooden one. It was installed in 1929 and has since then been rebuilt and enlarged. Crazy. Okay, $4.5 million. What? Enlarged by the Shorts Organ Company of the United States from 95 to 2001 at a cost of $4.5 million. And there it is. So that's a crazy story. They don't say why there's an organ in there, but again, right? Built by or designed by Joseph Reed, this amazing architect, who won a competition, built in 4 years. Fire burns down the organ, but not the building. And that is the story of the Melbourne Town Hall. Well, there you go, guys. Some crazy stories about some buildings in Melbourne, all designed by these, pop-up architects, all built in, what is it, 2 to 4 years, and and no mention of how they were built, where any of the materials came from, no blueprints, no nothing, just this pop-up city that was basically fully built out within 50 years of the city being founded. And of course, they tell us they were all founded buildings, none of them were built. So interesting stories. But that's what we look at here, right? Here's a story, try and pull it apart, look at what we can actually see and, work out if it's even possible, which none of it really seems to be. So thanks for spending some time with me. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hope you have a fantastic day. Don't forget to give me a like, leave me a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come!